Hi everybody, this is Julissa. Thank you so much everybody for coming back to my channel. Thank you to everybody who's listening right now in the podcast. It is Tuesday, June 16, 2026. I'm gonna do this very briefly. I was like, I need to speak about this because it's such a great testimony. And coming, speaking about myself, like in the fashion industry and hearing the testimony of the founder, one of the biggest cosmetic brand out there, and hearing him speak about God and his transformation, I was like, I need to speak about it. And that's why I'm doing this episode. But please know I don't have the microphone on or anything like that. So I'm going to do my best to just share the audio right here from my phone. So just bear with me. Before I continue, I want to say thank you, of course, everybody who's listening using Spotify. Don't forget to follow me on JulissaDesigns podcast on Spotify. It helps me as a creator. And every time I make a new episode, you will get a notification. And thank you guys so much, everybody who's using Apple Podcasts. I see the audience there growing. So thank you guys so much for following me on Apple Podcasts. Don't forget also to join in the subscription. And also you can follow the podcast there. And of course, everybody who's watching this video right now on YouTube, thank you so much, everybody, for being here. So, I always tell you guys all these stories that I come and share. Oh, I think I used to share more in the past, in the previous years about, all these big top CEOs, right? That are just, they they turn to harm themselves. And I'm being very cautious. I don't want to say the word here because, and you will think you're looking at somebody who perhaps has a lot of money in the bank, has all the cars and the houses you can think of, and a lot of them are married with their family, so it's not like they're lonely, nothing like that. And they have they're the top person in their company, right? They have accomplished so much, and they have all of these material things, all this money in the bank accounts, yet they cannot find happiness, right? And it's like one after the other. You hear so many stories, and you hear one after the other. They can be suffering from anxiety. They have no peace. They cannot sleep at all. They go through all these struggles in life, and you would think, right, because this world has made us strive for just having the house, the car, and the money in the bank account. And what good is that going to do to you if you have no peace, if you have no happiness inside of you, right? And let me tell you, the peace and happiness that every human being is looking for can only be found in your relationship with Jesus Christ. I can never get tired of saying that. I can never get tired of saying that. And people may hear this and they be like, here she is again, saying the same thing again. Um, it's just like, I think for a lot of people they will never understand it until they experience it. And that's why I feel, sometimes God does do give you everything that you ask for, so that you realize, wait a second, that I always wanted is not even making me happy at all, right? Have you gone through something like that you're like, man, I can't wait. Let's just say you're getting a brand new car like next week, right? You're like, can't wait to have this new car. My life is gonna be complete done once they give me those keys and I have my new car on Tuesday, right? And the Tuesday comes around and you got the car and all of that, and you're like, oh man, wait, um, I'm not feeling the happiness. And people are like, so how's everything? Yeah, so the car is over there, yeah. But you're like, wait a second, I thought I would be more happy. And that's the thing, society has made us believe that things and money in the bank and material things are gonna bring us joy. And then we hear the stories all over and again. And don't get me wrong, I do believe they do bring joy, but this type of joy that is so temporary, it's almost for that moment, right? For that moment. And this is why we have to seek the Lord first. You hear the stories about people. The other day I was hearing about this girl who went viral for creating this the demure campaign thing. and she will say, "This is so demure," things like that. And she was giving her testimony and saying, she go from working as a cashier at a supermarket, she goes viral overnight, right? And every all these brands are seeking after her, but she noticed that all of them, they just wanted her to create these campaigns for her, or just create a reel, right? Create a post on Instagram, create a reel saying the famous catchphrase that she created, which was something about the mirror or something like this, right? And she said, she's giving this interview and the girl is crying, and they're saying, "But why wouldn't you be happy? Because now everybody knows you and everybody's after you." She said, "But," she's like, "I just feel like it's not like they wanted her creativity. They just wanted her to say the same thing all over again." And mind you, people, these big companies were paying her $85,000, $50,000 per post, per reel. And she was like, the girl is crying. And another person would be like, "How stupid." Like, people would look at her and be like, "That is so stupid," right? People will say, "Why are you upset? You're paying you so much money. Just take the money and do." But it's like, she knew at that moment, like, everything perhaps that she was seeking after, thinking that will make her happy, is not making her happy. If anything, it's making her complete worse. And we hear about these testimonies about people who win the lottery, right? And they're like, "Oh my goodness, these people have so much money, they can buy a car like every single day, and they can buy a house and all of that." And then they end up having so much financial troubles, so much family problems, because they realize everybody around them, now everybody wants to be around you, and it's because you have the money. What kind of life is that, right? That will bring you like instant, like, sadness and depression, because now you're wanted for what you have. And I think it's similar to what happened to this girl who went viral. All these brands were seeking after her just because she said that famous catchphrase, not because she was creative or that she was really good at doing makeup and all of that. And we can go on and on. And these stories, like I said, repeat itself, right? We hear so many people struggling mentally. And you will think, if you have a personal chef, or you have a nanny, you have a big house and you have a car and you have money in the bank, why are you all sad? Why are you so sad? Why are you like getting on depression? And if anything, should be the opposite, right? Because that's what the world created us to believe, that that's all we needed to come to happiness, right? But then there's a Bible verse in the Bible that says, "The blessing of the Lord makes you rich, but brings no sorrow." And this is why sometimes I struggle when I hear, churches and pastors, I guess you can say, they want you to seek after what the world has. That, like, you can have the number one selling book in the New York, whatever, the New York bestseller book. You can have all the cars and this. You can be as famous as Oprah. Like, that's what you're offering people that believe in the Lord. Do you really think Oprah is always happy? Do you think if she's going through depression, she's gonna come out and say it? Right? It's like this superficial type of happiness, even though we know the truth, right? We know the word of God that says the blessing of the Lord makes you rich but brings no sorrow, right? That's why you can go into like the poor neighborhoods, poor countries, and you see this family, you see a mom, dad, and the kids, and they're so happy, and they barely have any food to eat. But you see the videos, right? Like on TikTok or something, and you see them all happy. They're all together, happy, enjoying the little bit of what they have, the little bit of rice that they have, and they're so appreciative, right? You see people like YouTubers go and bring them like food for the day or something like this, which I admire so much when people do that, right? People can choose not to go there but donate to those campaigns, and you know that's also great. But when people go and record them and they see, "Oh, I'm bringing you like clothes and shoes and things like that," and you see how happy they get just to get shoes that have been worn by other people, but they're so happy, so grateful to have that. And You look at people who are millionaires and they're so miserable. You can't even approach them. They want nothing to do with you. They don't even want they look at you and they size you up just by looking at you from the outside. They size you up and they're like, you're not in this tax bracket, so I'm not even gonna talk to you. I'm not even gonna approach you. Don't even come near me because I'm not even gonna talk to you. And people might hear what I'm saying and be like, oh, not everybody's like that. Obviously, not everybody's like that, right? There are people who are big millionaires and they're so ready to greet you, right? And there are people who are making a lot less than them and then they think they're over here and they don't even care. Like, they don't even look at you as a human. Obviously, not everybody's like that. Thanks be to God for that. But what I'm saying about the blessing of the Lord makes you rich and brings no sorrow, that's such a powerful verse in the Bible. I'm gonna get it because I speak about it a lot. I reference it a lot, and I always forget what's the where is it located in the Bible. And I'm gonna tell you in a second. It's Proverbs 10:22. It says, "The blessing of the Lord maketh rich, and He added no sorrow with it." Um, what good is it for you to have the cars, the houses, the big portfolio, and to be the top person at your company, and you go home and you cry, or you go to the office, in the office, and you go in the bathroom and you go and cry, and you go to to your house after work and in your family table, your kids are terrified of you. They cannot even, they have to sit the right way. They cannot touch that. They cannot start doing this. They're not allowed to speak unless they're asked to say something. That type of hostility and tension that people create, it's so crazy. I wasn't even gonna talk all of this, but it's almost like you can see it, right? And sometimes you go to restaurants and you see how hostile another table could be. You can sometimes notice it and you're like, oh my goodness, wow, those children, they seem so sad. And there are parents, I guess you can say dads, that make the family home so hostile that the kids are not even allowed to say anything. They're not allowed to even be children. And it's like that moment when they're supposed to enjoy dinner and just be well with everybody on the table, they're not even allowed to speak. And the dad is always correcting somebody, right? Constantly. It's like, dude, eat your meal. Stop correcting. Don't do that. That's not how you cut that. That's not how you do that. Don't drink too much water. And you're like, oh my goodness. This is the safe place for these children. It's so crazy. I was not going to go there. I don't even know where that's coming from. So I'm sure whoever's watching or listening to this podcast can probably relate to this. And it's like they go out there into the world, and it could be mom or dad, right? They go out there into the world and they become the big CEO, the top CFO, the big person, the big marketing VP, all of that. And they are so great at what they do. And then they go home and terrorize their entire family, right? And it's like, oh my goodness, that's such a double life right there, right? And then they wonder why they're so miserable, right? That you terrorize your whole family. The kids have anxiety just going out to the park with you. Um, they cannot even be normal kids around you. You're always correcting them, right? Those people that cannot, they always have to tell you something. Don't do that. That's not how you open. Hold on a moment. It's like in 5 minutes of being together, there are like 50 corrections going on. And it's like, oh, who wants to be around that? Right? Who wants to be in that midst? But you know, this world really makes you um seek out, power and money and all of that. And you get all of that and you still like you can be so like miserable, right? That's what they say. So sad and all of that. And that's how you know. I think when that happens to you, that's how you know you're seeking the blessing that the world gives, not the blessing that the Lord gives, right? Because if it's from the Lord, you will have no sorrow. And I know people can be misinterpret what I just said, but do we as Christians experience moments of sorrow, sadness, and all of that? Yes, we do. But even in that moment, right? Have you ever started crying about something and you end up laughing? I'm like, why am I even worrying about this? This is so crazy. And then it's like you begin crying, and people can look at that and be like, oh, that's an appointment right there. But hear me out. Like, you can begin to pray, like, when you start praying, but you're praying and you're crying at the same time because what you're going through is so bad and so sad and sorrowful and all of that. And then there is a peace that comes to you that you start praying while crying, and the prayer finish while you laughing. You're like, this is so ridiculous. It's almost like you already know, like you know that your father in heaven heard you, and you know that he's gonna take care of you like he always does, right? And you're like really worried. It's just such a time waster. And um that's what I'm saying. Like, the blessing of the Lord makes you rich but brings no sorrow, right? And now I'm gonna tell you what I was originally gonna tell you is that the founder of the big cosmetic company called E.L.F, E.L.F, very famous. I think I seen it. I think I bought their products many, a lot of times. I seen it a lot at the drugstores and the pharmacies like Walgreens, CVS. I don't know if they actually used to sell their cosmetics at Kohl's or probably at Ulta too, but the founder, his name is Joseph Shama and Scott Vincent Borba. And let me just tell you who he is exactly. I do apologize about that because in the last couple of days he's been in the news a lot, right? He's been the founder of the E.L.F cosmetic brand, has now become a Catholic priest. And I gotta tell you, you gotta seek out his testimony. I don't have it. It's not my interview, but he's been doing the news channels. He's been doing a lot of the podcasts, and he's talking about his testimony. And this man, and it's so crazy because when I do fashion shows, I see these people. It's almost so weird. I see these people doing the makeup, and they're so good at what they do, and they're so, every celebrity, they tell you every celebrity they work with, and they're so well known. And you do New York Fashion Week with them, and they tell you, oh yeah, next week I'm doing LA, and then I'm going to Paris. They're busy, great at what they do, and very prolific, right? And they're very talented and everywhere. And you go on the Instagram, and they're super famous. They have a great following. And this man created, his name is Scott Borba. He created the huge brand, like I said, E.L.F Cosmetics. And now he became a deacon. And he said that, his testimony is very amazing because he worked with like so many celebrities and all of that. But he said that was not, he felt so empty. He felt so, even though he had all of that, the brand became so big, so well known, and I think it's still out there to this day. And he founded that brand in 2004, and then he left in 2019. And he said he felt like God was calling him to something else, right? And he says here, the former businessman, 52-year-old, announced this past May that he was making a career jump from the beauty industry to the church, following his ordination as a Catholic priest performed by the Diocese of Fresno, all in his hometown of Visalia, California, on May 23rd. Scott Barba took part of his first interview, and he said God sanctified, his whole route to bring me back now to glorify his name versus to glorify myself or idolize the business that I was creating. He said, so This is interesting. It's even interesting. It just already gave me like kind of like something to for me to think about, right? This actualization of the business, of this idea of, you know, that what you're doing is just nobody else. It's almost like you idolize so much your career that you forget about God. And I'm not saying that everybody should stop what they're doing and become priests right now. Obviously, there are ways that even in your career you can glorify the Lord. I heard somebody the other day say everything that you do glorifies the Lord. Not necessarily. I don't agree with that because there are a lot of people doing crazy stuff right now. You can tell to somebody everything that you do for your job will glorify the Lord. There are people doing crazy stuff at their workplace, right? That doesn't necessarily glorifies the Lord, obviously, right? So um he felt that he was called to be a priest. And I know people will look at this, what I'm saying, and be like, oh, but he shouldn't be a priest. He should be more like a pastor because it's like, it's like that's not the point. It's like, um, when Jesus, I always think about that. Some people just miss the little point, the big point they miss and they focus on other things, Um, when Jesus healed somebody on the Sabbath day, people were like, you healing somebody on the Sabbath day. It's like he's been paralyzed for years and years. Like, can you look at the big miracle and stop trying to be like, oh, he didn't do it the right way. He didn't say the right thing. And, instead of being a priest, he should be a pastor. Some people look at that. It's like this man is coming out after working for so many celebrities in this huge industry that is the beauty industry is massive. I remember in 2000, let me see, when I noticed that beauty was taking over bigger than fashion, and people can disagree with that, but you saw the shift take place, and I'm trying to think what year that was. Around 2013, 2014, I noticed that this beauty thing became bigger than fashion. Beauty meaning like cosmetics, compared to fashion, because I feel like when you're having Sephora and Ulta and all these people, big celebrities creating this fashion brand, skincare, that's what I also meant to say. When you see these big cosmetic brands making their way into department stores, you're like, there's something bigger that's taking over. And it's almost like fashion is kind of moving aside a little bit to make room for beauty. And this guy left right in that, that pinnacle of the cosmetic brand and was like, I'm gonna do what God calls me to do. This man who was on the Home Shopping Network, who was doing makeup with Paris Hilton, who was on the top of his game, the brand became so huge, so big, and he said he felt empty. That God was calling him to do something else. And that to me, like I said, you have to reach out, you have to search for his testimony. It seems as though he's doing a lot of interviews right now, so you probably hear about him. To see him transform from that, it's almost like anybody who has a dream to create a beauty brand will look at him and be like, what are you doing? You're crazy. This is like the best thing that could happen for your brand, for your business. You're a celebrity everywhere you go, everybody knows you. Every artist wants you to be there to do the makeup or suggestion and words and all of that. And that's what, you know, that's another testimony for you to listen to, because it tells you, even though all of that, because we can achieve everything, right? Because we can do all things through Christ. But is it really what God wants us to have, right? In my testimony, I can tell you that when I first started doing clothing, I would be like, I will be in my mind, I will be like, if I get this opportunity, it will be amazing. And then it will be like the day before, and I see how things were playing out and things were falling into place, and I was like, oh, please, God, please stop the whole thing. I don't want to do it anymore. I don't know where my mind was. And then, like, something like that has to happen for you to start learning to pray about, God, let it be your will. Don't send me to places where you don't want me there. Because people will say to you, you gotta do more. You gotta make. You gotta. People who never. It's crazy how people give you advice. They never built anything. They never had a business, but they already know exactly what you need to do, step by step, what you need to do when you're starting something out. And in their mind, I guess they can guess what it is, but trust me, you don't want nothing that God doesn't want for you, right? So before you tell to somebody, you gotta keep moving. You gotta do something more. You have to. The best advice you can give to somebody: pray and ask God that His will be done in your life, right? Because there are a lot of things that we're seeking after that is gonna lead us nowhere. The blessing of the Lord makes you rich, but brings no sorrow. What good is it gonna do for you to have everything that you ever wanted and be sorrowful and have no peace and live in anxiety and load yourself up every day with medication for anxiety or depression and have money in the bank account and be sad every single day and have the all the cars that you can have and have a payout home, pay it off house, I guess you can say, and have the best of the best fashions and have no peace and be sorrowful, and your family feels every time you walk into the room they're so, like, they don't even know like how to even communicate with you. You make everybody feel in this air of hostility. What good is that gonna do, right? And I can obviously tell now that I'm gonna have to make a second part for this testimony. I think what he said, and I'll do another episode for this. And I think what he said is so profound, and people can hear his testimony. And I'm so happy that he's coming out and saying it to everybody. It's so much needed in the fashion industry, in the beauty industry. It's so much needed. There's such a need for Christ in the fashion industry, in the beauty industry, and to see that, um, to see him in the news coming out and speaking about it and he should do more podcasts and all of that, I think it's amazing. And I'm gonna talk about it more. I'll do a second part of this episode, but I want you to, just think about this for a second. The blessing of the Lord, it says Proverbs 10:22, the blessing of the Lord, it maketh rich, and he added no sorrow with it. Just think about that. Thank you guys so much for coming to my channel. Thank you everybody who's listening to the podcast. God bless.